tonight, and we've got to know Jeremiah as a friend, and I feel like a kind of a mentor to Jeremiah. I know that we look up to his family and the path that he's gone to get here today. I just respect him for being here today. So I want to welcome Jeremiah and thank you, brother.
Good evening, gentlemen and women. Good to see you. Good to be here. So, my name is Jeremiah Dickey. I'm going to share my testimony with y'all and just a little short speech, short inspirational speech after that. So, my name is Jeremiah Dickey. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio.
Hey.
September 13th, 1983, I was born. That makes me 36 years old today. My life started off pretty rough as a young child. I was raised with my mom and dad until I was 5 years old. And I have two sisters and a brother also. And me and my brother and sisters were still really close. My grandma raised us after I was 5, and I'll forever be a grandma's boy. My grandma did the best she could raising us for four kids unexpectedly. So when I was 5 years old, though, living with my mom and dad, my dad had me and my brother and my two sisters playing cowboys and Indians. We lived in Indiana on a farm. I had little BB guns and horses and all that good stuff. And he had me tie my brother and my sisters up with their hands behind their back and put them face down on the couch and like hold them hostage, you know. My mom come running after me trying to take my BB gun from me. And I was fighting her off. And it's all fun and games until I heard a loud bang. And I look over and my mom's falling to the ground with a bullet through her head and blood pouring out everywhere. And my dad had pulled his revolver and shot my mom in the head. And she was dead instantly. And I remember in that moment feeling really lost and confused and knowing that my mom was gone forever, shot by my dad right before my eyes. And I picked up this baggage, and I put hatred and confusion and a lot of pain in that bag. When I was 6 years old, my grandma took custody of all of us, and my dad went to jail, but he only got 5 years for manslaughter. He said it was an accident. So my grandma takes custody of us, and at 7 years old, my step-grandpa starts coming back around. I looked up to him as like a father figure, you know. I'm only 7 years old, and we connected instantly, and he started spoiling me with whatever I wanted. He couldn't spoil all of us, but he really took to me, and I felt close with him. However, when I was 7 years old, my grandpa started molesting me, and he told me never to tell anyone or I'd get into big trouble, and that he could get into big trouble. So again, I put more confusion, more hatred in that baggage, and feeling just unworthy, you know, ashamed, like I can't tell nobody what's going on. And I was just really lost, wondering why someone who loves me would want to touch me. And I didn't tell nobody for years, just like he told me not to, until I was 33 years old, actually. I kept that pain with me and carried it around and let him hold that bondage on me. So this starts happening, and I start lashing out really bad. In school, I'm like the worst kid in the school. The teachers don't know what to do with me. I'm always getting in trouble. And I was just really, really angry. My grandma didn't know what was going on, so she didn't know what to do. And the teachers, instead of asking what's wrong with this kid and trying to figure it out, they pretty much pushed me aside. Like, we don't want him to rub off on the other kids. This kid is a problem, and we don't know what the heck to do with him. So I was pushed to the side, and I started getting suspended a lot and fighting all the time. By the time I was 12 years old, I had started smoking weed and breaking into cars and getting suspended right and left, and I even started drinking a little bit, and I became a follower. At that age, I became a follower. Now, when I was, I think it was 8 years old, though, my grandma put me in to see a psychiatrist. For the next 5 years, she put me in to see a psychiatrist, and twice a month I would go to this psychiatrist, and I remember all that taught me was how to block it out, how to block those feelings and emotions out and become numb to it and not think about what happened with my mom. So I'm 13 years old now, and I'm stealing cars. I'm a follower at this point, and I'm hanging out with the kids that's older than me. I'm doing all kinds of drugs. I'm selling drugs. and I went to jail for my first time for a grand theft auto for stealing cars. And when I got there, I felt welcome. This was the problem. In school, I felt like the outcast. When I got to jail, I felt welcome. Like, these kids are like me. They're problem kids. A lot of my friends are in there. I grew up playing football and basketball. I was really, really good at basketball. And even the correction officers were like arguing for whose unit I would go on because they all wanted me on their team, on their basketball team. So I felt welcomed, and I felt like I was, that was like a second home to me. So for the next 3 years, I stayed in jail. I'd get out for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then go right back. And it didn't scare me at all. It didn't scare me at all. So when I turned 16, I'm on parole at this point. I've done 2 years in juvenile prison. And me and my friend at the time, my best friend at the time, Roger, were in a stolen car, and we got in a high-speed chase. In this high-speed chase, I was driving the car because my friend was more messed up than I was on alcohol and pills and everything. However, it was supposed to be his turn to drive this car, but I didn't feel safe with him driving, so I did. So we get in this high-speed chase, and we get in a terrible, terrible car wreck. I wake up, and I'm over the steering wheel, and I'm looking for my friend, and he's gone. So I jumped out the windshield because all the doors was jammed in, all the windows busted out, sirens everywhere, and people yelling, running up on us. And I jump out, and my eyeball pops halfway out, and my ear was dangling on. I had to hold my eyeball in and hold my ear on while I was running away from the scene. I get to a friend's house, and he sees me, and instantly, like, "Why are you here, dude? We need to get you to the hospital. Your ear is about to fall off. Can you even see out of your eye? Like, it's popped out. It's disgusting." So he takes me to the hospital, and I'm a known car thief, It's like the cops are waiting for somebody to come in that's all messed up. So they swoop me up and take me back. A plastic surgeon pushes my eyeball back in, sews it on, puts 88 stitches down my ear. And I didn't lose my vision or my hearing, thank God on that. But from there, they took me to jail, and they took me to juvenile prison, and they told me, "You really messed up this time. I'm facing vehicular manslaughter, grand theft auto, and who knows how many other charges, a lot of other charges. Juvenile life plus 3 years is what I was facing." And I was only 16 at the time. And the reason why is because 2 days after I got to jail, they told me my friend Roger died from that car wreck. The reason he wasn't in there is because he flew out the windshield, and his brain was damaged and bruised and started bleeding, and he died from it. So in that baggage, I'm putting more stuff in. I'm putting being a follower, being a delinquent child, being a criminal, putting a lot of guilt in there from what happened to my friend. And I sat in there for a year. When I got out, I went to court, and my attorney at the time, they told me some things happened in the court case, and because they took my grandmother out of the hospital room, that they had to dismiss the case, because you cannot question a juvenile without a parent guardian or a parole officer or somebody involved, so all evidence has to be dropped. And I remember feeling still so guilty, like getting out, and I went harder because I didn't want to feel like that with doing more drugs and committing more crimes. I didn't learn anything. I did not learn my lesson. So I'm still in and out of jail, and the main thing about that part is my life was spared because, as I told you in the beginning, it was supposed to be him that was driving and me in that passenger seat. That was supposed to be me, and I didn't know that till later in life. But I turned 18, and I went to the county jail, the men's prison, 9 times in the first 6 months of being 18 years old, being an adult, and being 3 felonies. On that third one, I got out and realized, what the hell am I doing? Like, I need to get out of here. I need to change something. This ain't kiddie games no more. I'm about to be locked up for like 10 years if I keep this up. So I called that same grandpa that molested me all them years as a child in Florida, and that was my way out. I told him I need to come down there and have a change of scenery. I need to get away from here before I end up locked up and become just another number like everyone else I've always known. And he agreed. So I got on a Greyhound, and I went to Florida. I told myself on that trip I'm going to change 3 things. Those 3 things were I'm going to get a job and see what it's like to make legal money. I'm going to be responsible and get my own apartment and pay my own bills and try to learn how to be a grown-up. And I'm going to get with one girl and get a girlfriend and try to settle down and see what that's like. All three things, I've never done any of those. So I get to Florida, and I hit the ground running, man. Within the first year, at 19 years old, I had done all three of those things. I had met a girl, and we settled down and got a job, got an apartment 3 blocks from the beach. I just walked to work every day and paying my own bills, and I'm actually doing good in life because I'm not committing crimes or anything. But the other thing that I did, though, was I started drinking every single day. Like, every single day. Go to work, come home, drink till I pass out. And it wasn't a problem, though. Like, that's just normal to me. Like, this is what grown-ups do. This is what men are allowed to do. So, as I look back on it now, when I was a kid seeing that psychiatrist, they taught me how to numb those feelings and emotions that I had never dealt with, how to numb it, how to be able to talk about it and not express any feeling. As a teenager, I turned to being a follower, and I turned to crime to numb those feelings, to not think about it, for it not to affect me. As an adult, I turned to alcohol to numb those feelings and emotions and not process, not deal with anything, to just go on in life. So, I'm doing good, though. You know, I'm drinking every day, but I'm still handling my business as an adult. By the time I turned 21, and she gets pregnant, and at that moment, I knew that I had a purpose in life now, to have my own close, loving family, like something that I never had growing up, but something that I always wanted. So, she's pregnant. We had my first son, and I named him Amen. And not even a month later, actually 2 months later, she gets pregnant again. And so we got 2 kids on the way, back to back. And the second one was a girl. And that's what I always wanted too, was a little girl. And I named her Angel. And life is good, man. I'm feeling motivated. I'm feeling inspired. I have drive in my life. I started learning a trade, which is carpentry. And I started absorbing everything that I can. I was hungry for knowledge. And learning everything that I could very fast, and learning that I have no education. I dropped out in 9th grade. I need to learn use my hands to make a living. I got a family now. I need to provide. So I start moving up in this company pretty quickly, and I think it was age 25 or 26. Bam, we get another baby on the way. Our last one, we get one more baby on the way, and my little boy Jacob, named him Jacob. So we have Jacob, and I moved up in the company. I'm making good money. I'm a master carpenter at this point. I've done all phases of carpentry, and I'm still drinking every single day. And soon after that, the arguing and fighting started in the marriage, because not only was I drinking, I started taking pain pills at this point. I think I was 27 years old. I started taking pain pills, opioids, and they're very expensive. That's a very expensive habit to have. So for 2 years, I'm doing that and just blowing all of our money. You know, like, of course, going to argue and fight about it. I'm drunk every night. When I was 29 years old, I realized I don't think I could stop drinking if I tried to. Maybe I should try to. From the age of 18 till 29, I took note of it. Like, I literally probably went maybe 2 weeks in this whole 11 years without drinking. 2 weeks worth of days, you know, that's it. 14 days in 11 years that I went without drinking, and definitely not consecutively, like back to back. So I realized maybe I need to check it out if I got a problem. And I couldn't stop on my own. I started going to detox facilities, and I'd feel good. I'd get out, and within 2 days, I'm right back at it. The arguing and fighting became a lot worse because of that. I had kicked the pain pill habit, addiction at that point. I kicked that, but I'm still drinking every single day, and I don't even know why. Like, how much better I feel after I'm going through a detox and get out. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's just such a habit because I had every single day. So by the time I turned 30 years old, I went to my first rehab, Salvation Army in Memphis, Tennessee, and we lived in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia at the time. And I got there, stayed for 30 days, felt like I was on top of the world. I learned everything I ever needed to know. But the problem was, I wasn't really listening when I was there. All I was doing is hearing what they were saying and playing the role. Like, just walking that thin line like we can do so easily when we're in these kind of places. So I get back to Georgia, and within like 3 days, right back at it. It fell on my face. I'm drinking every day again. We start going to church, and I'm feeling like this is what I need, is church. That wasn't doing it for me either. So I started going to AA meetings, and like I'm seeing in AA that these men like are like me. Like these people are like me. I can see it with my own eyes, and they are learning how to stay sober. So I made up every excuse I could to get the hell out of there because I wasn't ready to change yet, and I knew that if I stayed there, I would. But that was an answer for me. But it's obvious there. So arguing the fight continues. I'm in and out of rehabs. I'm in and out of detox centers. I'm not wanting to change myself, though. I just want to get clean for a little bit and look good, like at least I'm trying. But I get out and I'm starting to hiding and drinking all the time. So at I think it was 31 years old, we decided we needed a break from our marriage, and I went back to Dayton, Ohio, to visit my sisters and be with them for a little while. When I got there, my childhood best friend Tommy, we grew up across the street from each other. He called me and he wanted to meet up and wanted to party. So that's what we did. We went out to a party, we went to a bar, we went to these girls' house, and I remember being so blacked out, drunk, that I didn't even know where I was at or what we were doing. It's like old times, you know. It had been 13 years since we've seen each other. So at this party, these girls are doing meth. I've never done meth before, crystal meth, and I did in that moment for the first time in my life, first and only time. And I just remember being so blacked out that I don't know what's going on or where I'm at, but I was having fun, as I thought, in that moment. So I realized that my friend Tommy had disappeared. I'm just sitting there with these two girls, and they looking at me kind of funny, and my friend Tommy had disappeared. I'm asking them where he's at, and they don't know, so I get up to go looking for him, and he comes walking out of the bathroom. I'm pushing him and stuff, playing with him, and Tommy falls to the ground. I roll him over, and he has a needle in his arm. He had went into the bathroom and shot up heroin and OD'd. Here's another time my life was spared. If he would have offered that to me, in the state of mind I was in, I would have done it. No doubt about it. I would have done it first if he would have offered it to me, but he knew better. I think my friend, he went to the bathroom to hide because he knew I wouldn't let him do that in front of me. As much bigger as he was than me, I wouldn't let him do it in front of me. So he's OD'd, and we're trying to do CPR, and they won't call the ambulance, so I load him in his truck, rush him to the hospital. We get to the hospital, and I'm hearing him breathing a little bit, just... And I tell him right before I pulled in, man, this is your last chance. We're here right now. I'm about to pull in. Say something. He don't say nothing. I pull in. They come running out with the stretchers and the nurses. They open the door, and his head plops out. He's like black and blue. They rush him in. Detectives come and grab me, and they want to talk. And not even 5 minutes later, they come back and say, your friend is DOA, dead on arrival. You were talking to a ghost. So, in that moment, man, mind you, I'm high on meth. I'm drunk as all out of my mind, drunk. Everything was just so, I felt so haunted in that moment. Here I am again in a position where someone closest to me dies. And not just dies right in front of me. And I felt haunted, like I don't want to be close with nobody else no more. I don't want to see nobody else die. So cops interrogate me and stuff and realized I didn't do nothing wrong. They actually told me that was really a really good thing I did. Where I'm from is the overdose capital of the world, Dayton and Cincinnati, Ohio. People usually just kick you out in the alley or drop you off in front of a fire station and keep going. I actually brought him to the hospital. It made me feel a little bit better, but I still felt cursed. I felt haunted, and I went to a really, really dark place. So more things into that baggage, more loss, more guilt feeling, more shame. Being an addict is obvious at this point. Being an alcoholic is obvious at this point. Even though I want to admit it, that's in the baggage too. A couple weeks go by and they tell me it's okay to go back home. So I go back to my family and nothing changed. Like it got a lot worse. The arguing and fighting got worse. Everything got worse, and I turned to drugs that I said I'd never do. I thought my life was in a downward spiral with drinking alcohol every day. When I turned to that glass pipe, my life went in a downward spiral faster than I ever imagined possible. Within a year, we agreed we needed a divorce. We can't keep arguing or fighting in front of the kids anymore. I can't keep killing myself in front of the kids anymore by drinking myself to death. I had got pancreatitis. I don't have an education. I don't even know what pancreas is or what it does. And they tell me how important it is. You can't live without it. And I need to stop drinking. After the 5th time of getting pancreatitis, they tell me I have 3 years to live. At that time, I was 31 years old. And I looked at that doctor and I smiled and said, man, I'm 31 years old. He said, and you'll be 34 and the youngest I've ever married due to alcoholism. This ain't a game no more. Here's your x-rays, and showed me. He scared me. I kicked him out of the room, started crying, and when I got home, that's when I talked to my kid's mother, and we agreed we needed to divorce, and I need to go to rehab and get serious. So I get a Greyhound ticket. I go to Jacksonville, Florida, from Atlanta, Georgia. She packed up everything and moved out here to Texas, to Bedford, Texas, with our kids. I check into the rehab there, and I'm bitter at this point. You know, I'm like 2 months in, I'm feeling bitter. You know, like, why? How dare she do this to me? How would she take the kids and leave like this? And man, I was still so selfish and just full of myself. But like, we get a little bit of time clean and think that people owe us something. But owe us nothing, man. So she moved out here, the best move she's ever made in her life. Ever made in her life. I stayed there, graduated the program. 6 months. I stayed sober for 6 months and ain't learned a damn thing. Because I got out within a month and a half, I fell flat on my face. Only now I'm in a new state, in a new city with nobody that I know, with no kids, no responsibilities, no wife to tell me what I can and can't do, and I went harder than I ever have before. I really was suicidal. I didn't really care to live. I had no kids and no inspiration. I've only got 3 years to live, they done told me anyways, and I started drinking, I started doing drugs more, I started selling drugs, and at this one point, I let my guard down and I walked to the store. When I walked out of the store, at this point I'm 33 years old. I walked out of the store and I got jumped. Somebody hit me in the back of the head with a pole and fell to the ground trying to fight back, and they robbed me for all the money that I had on me. They broke my jaw in 4 different places. It was wired shut and stabbed me twice and left me for dead. I woke up in the hospital and they explained to me what happened and that I almost just died, that I could have just died, that luckily somebody called and they found me. They also tell me you have pancreatitis. And everything clicks right in that moment. Like, I can't even talk. My mouth is wired shut. I almost just got killed. I only got 1 year to live right now. Like, I'm 33, that doctor told me before, and I got pancreatitis again. Like, what am I doing in my life? So, a couple days go by before they release me. You know, they bring me these papers to sign, and on these papers, it said your address. And this is where I had a spiritual awakening, as I call it, because I realized in that moment, I guess I'm homeless too. I have nothing. I know all of my belongings at that house are going to be gone. They've stolen everything. I don't even have a place to live. Like, I'm out here by myself, broken, alone, afraid, fearful of the world, still doing the same shit I've been doing for years. I need to make some changes and get my life together. So, they release me. I go to the house. I got 1 duffel bag of clothes with some clothes in it and some pictures of my kids. And I start walking, and I put my duffel bag in a recyclable roll-along trash can, and I'm walking downtown Jacksonville, on Main Street, downtown Jacksonville, with the trash can, looking for a homeless shelter to stay in. That's a memory, a vivid picture that I have in my mind still, embedded in my mind, to where if I thought of ever harming somebody or using or risking everything again, if that thought ever comes, I've trained my mind to remind myself of that certain time. When I was walking down there, broken, alone, afraid, with nothing, with a trash can. So I get to a homeless shelter and I call out here to Dallas Salvation Army. And I talked to JJ on the phone, and that man encouraged me more than anybody, more than I ever expected anyone to. I called my kid's mother and asked her, told her what I plan on doing. I want to come out there and really get serious this time. I told her what happened because she didn't even know that I almost just died again. I got 1 year to live, and I need to get serious. Like, but I need my kids for my inspiration. Because right now I don't care whether I live or die. I need to do something different for myself this time. So she agreed, but she told me don't come out here and start no stuff. So I I got a Greyhound ticket, and I came out here, and I checked in here to this rehab right here, man. And the one thing I told myself I'm going to do differently this time is to sit down and shut up and admit that I don't know nothing about staying clean. I have no clue how to manage my life. Like, look at it. It's so obvious that I don't know what I'm doing out here. So I sat down and I shut up and I hit the ground running with everything they had to offer. Within a week, my counselor, Ms. Terry Grenard, told me about this program, Bridges to Life. And I explained to her some things, and she said, well, it just so happens that the owner, the COO of this program, his story is similar to yours, with his dad having his mom murdered. And somehow he found forgiveness, and I think you need to talk to him. So I'm excited at this point, like, hold on, how would he forgive him? What the hell is wrong with that dude? I need to meet him. So that stuff is that don't even sound right. Like, why would you do that? But something, I just felt so drawn to it, though. So the class started a month after I got here. November 6, 2016 is when I got here. A month later, this Bridges to Life started. So I take Bridges to Life, and it just so happens that Jim is the facilitator of my class. So I get to spend the next 3 months with him, taking everything I can from him, you know, and this program. And it taught me so much. I'll get to that part in a second, on what I learned and the steps that I took with Bridges to Life. But in this program, I'm going along, I'm doing Bible studies, I get a sponsor in AA, I'm working in a carpentry shop in the warehouse, and I'm actually feeling good. 3 months goes by, I get to start seeing my kids again. They're coming out here every now and then. I'm going to see them every weekend to Bedford on the TRE. 3 months goes by, and I graduate Bridges to Life. I've never graduated nothing in my life before. So on your graduation, you get to invite whoever you want to the graduation. You get to come up here and say a few words, whatever you want to. And on my turn, when I got to come up here, I said what I was saying. And at the end of it, I told my kids, I said, I'd like to introduce you. I'm going to definitely get emotional on this part. I said, I'd like to introduce you guys to somebody. Me, your real dad. I said, because I know you can't know who I am because I've never known who I was. I've been drunk your whole life. I've been drunk their whole lives. And it hit me in that moment. And when I told them that, they got a little emotional too, but that was serious, man. That was a real moment. And it's amazing to see that they're here tonight to see me on the other end of it now, being able to do stuff like this all the time. So Bridges to Life changed my life. I graduated it. I stuck up with the program. I graduated with the Salvation Army. It taught me so much about structure, about living with structure and a daily routine. And I still live with that every single day today. Now, I still make my bed. I still wear a belt. I still stay cleanly shaved, even though there's no facial hair. It taught me so much. So I graduate here, and they give me a job as the warehouse floating supervisor. I'm working there for a few months and move into an Oxford House, sober living house. And I left working the Salvation Army. I'm a master carpenter. Like, I need to be making more money to provide more for my kids. So I get back into carpentry. And I stay connected with Bridges to Life. I stay connected with AA. I stay connected with church. I stay connected with every single thing that I did here, plus a lot more. And people say while we're in here that we're so busy, there's no time for nothing extra. There is if you want to make time for it. Because for me, I stay way busier outside of these walls than I did when I was in here. It just feels like it now because everyone's in the same routine as you. But for me, that's what works anyways, though. So I get out and I finally save up and I get a car, and then I save up some more and I can get my own apartment now. And my kids are in Bedford. I'm in East Dallas. I want to move to Arlington. So that's what I did. I got me an apartment out in Arlington. And life is looking good, man. Life is looking good. At this point, I had been sober a year. So I move out to Arlington, and I'm still staying connected with Bridges to Life, with the Salvation Army, coming back here, doing what I can, and giving back. During this time, though, or graduating Bridges to Life and graduating the Salvation Army, I'm going to tell you now the steps that I took that worked, and I highly suggest that you try to do some of these things too. My sobriety date is November 6, 2016. That's 3 years and 4 months that I've been sober today. All glory to God for that, because I take it one day at a time, and it's hard for me to even imagine that when I get on my knees every morning, I still like, wow, it's been over 3 years. I had 3 years to live, and I drank for 2 of them. I lost everything, man. That's what it takes for some people. When I was working this program, where my change started is it all started with honesty. I had to really be honest with myself and admit that I am such a liar that I can't even say a full sentence without telling a lie, without exaggerating to make something sound a little better, just lying all the time. So I practiced what my sponsor told me. He said, if you want to really get honest with yourself, here's what you do. Tell on yourself every time you tell a lie. It's going to make you feel so stupid that it's going to make you stop lying, if that's what you want to do. So I'm like, whatever, try this out. It sounds too hard. Man, I really couldn't even say a full sentence without telling a lie. And I'm constantly, while I'm in here, I just lie, hold on, let me rephrase that. And that wasn't, man, I felt so stupid to the point I'm trying to play it off like I'm joking, but really I'm straight full-face lying. And this goes on for a month and a half. Like, it took some time but I'm feeling convicted because I want to stop at this point. And after about a month and a half, I realized that I'm starting to be honest with myself. Hold up, am I really being honest? Like, I'm being honest with myself, like I'm questioning all my thoughts, everything, and I'm telling on myself all the time. So I realized I'm getting honest. Like, that was the first step, that was the hardest step, and that was a big freaking deal. The next step was my negative perception, my negative outlook on life. I had to question myself, and I prayed and I asked God how to show me how to change my negative outlook on life into a positive outlook on life. And a few of the things I did on that was, when I'm asked to go to a new place or asked to go somewhere, here they always ask you to do something. My first thought at first was like, why would I want to go there? There ain't nothing there to offer. Like, well, let me catch that thought. Maybe there is. Maybe there's something I can learn. I got a lot to learn. Maybe I need to go anywhere they have to offer. What else am I going to do? So I would catch thoughts like that. When I have a judgmental thought about somebody, about Chase. Man, he's so loud. This dude just thinks he's so cool. Like, no, hold on. Let me check that thought. Maybe that's how he wants to feel because that's his way of bettering his life. Maybe that's what I had to do at some point too. That's okay. Instead of having all these negative thoughts, because they still come, but to catch them and to find something positive about it right then and there, not push it away until later, like instantly to catch every thought that comes negative and find something positive in it. Over time, over about a month of doing this, my whole negative perception was changing so much into a positive perception that I felt like I might be overlooking some things. Like, my whole, the lifestyle that we live teaches us how to have a defense mechanism of being negative and about overanalyzing and judging certain people and their character and their motives and all this to where I'm just being a little too friendly. Maybe I need to check myself a little bit. But when I had that thought, that's when I realized my whole negative outlook on life has changed. Like, I have a whole new, totally different positive outlook on life now, and I can honestly say that to myself. When I go places and when I'm asked to, I'm looking forward to going because I want to learn. I want to meet people. I want to talk to people. When somebody asks me to do something like this, instead of thinking, man, they don't want to listen to me, it's like, maybe somebody does. Maybe somebody can learn something from what I have to say. Every opportunity that I get, when I meet that person who I have these judgmental thoughts about, stop that right then and there. I have no right to because I didn't like it when people used to think and talk about me like that. So what gives me the right to do it? And that's just being real that I did do that. It took a while to overcome that. So after I realized now that I'm able to be honest, I have a whole new positive outlook on life. Lord, what else can I work on? Well, you're in Bridges to Life, and one of the main things they're teaching you is forgiveness. I'm like, it just came to me like a boulder, like, dang, here we go. This one probably going to be the hardest one now, forgiveness. I got a lot of forgiveness to do, mainly with myself. While I'm taking this program here, that's what Jim taught me a lot about is forgiveness. He taught me about how to forgive yourself and how, if my kids have forgiven me, why can't I forgive myself? If God has forgiven me, why can't I forgive myself? Well, I know myself better is what I would think. Like, I know how this works up here. I know what's up here, the things that I've done that nobody else does. And Scripture tells me, no, you don't. God knows everything that you've done, and He's forgiven you anyways. You need to forgive yourself. You are not bigger than Him. If He's forgiven you, you need to forgive yourself. And that took a lot of prayer, a lot of Scripture, and this program right here, a lot of writing and a lot of talking it out, to the point that I had started to forgive myself, and then I had to work on forgiving my dad for murdering my mom. I had to forgive my grandpa for molesting me for all them years, and I did not know how to. And I'm going to just be real with you and honest, it didn't happen the first go-around with this program. It took several go-arounds, and that's just me being real. Like, I wrote letters, and I buried them in the dirt just to release them to the earth. I had said many, many prayers. I had wrote stuff down. I had talked to my counselor. I had talked to pastors, everything. And after a while, because I was so consistent and persistent with wanting to forgive them, that eventually it happened, and I can't even tell you exactly when it happened. I could just tell you that I wasn't bitter no more all of a sudden, that I didn't have that anger anymore all of a sudden, and that I had really forgiven them, and I had forgiven myself, and I felt the biggest relief. One of the things that I was taught with this program is that forgiveness isn't always for the other person. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. And like, I've heard people say that, but it just sounded so cliche that I'm like, they really are having a hold on me. And that's one of the biggest reasons I've been drinking my whole life, is because I've never dealt with those things that happened to me when I was a kid. Man, that chance was taken from me. I was just a lost boy in this cold world. And with all them things happening, my chance was taken from me. So I turned to alcohol and drugs to block it out my whole life until my life was next. And death was coming knocking on my door, and I realized in order to take it back, I have to do whatever it takes. I have to forgive whoever I need to forgive. And today I can honestly say I've forgiven my dad and my grandpa. And I actually love my grandpa today. That's how strong this program is. So after the forgiveness part, I had to be real and ask myself, do I love myself? And that's a hard one for me, because I'm like, that just sounds like some gay cliche thing that people say, you gotta love yourself. Or that's something that women do, not us men. I was raised to be hard, not to show emotion and feeling and all that. To stand up for yourself and be tough, but don't cry. Man, all that stuff was a lie, though. All that stuff I was taught was a lie. Like, real men actually do cry. But I didn't love myself, and I had to find out how to love myself. So I had to turn to Scripture again, and more talking with people, more writing, and lots of prayer. And the main two things that kept coming to mind are, if your kids love you, why can't you love yourself? I'm like, well, because they're my kids. Like, I love them too, yeah, but if they've forgiven you and they love you, why can't you love yourself? If God loves you, and He's brought you out of the darkness already, why can't you love yourself? And I didn't know if I wanted to. I didn't know if I deserved to be loved. I felt unworthy with it. So I had to take a look back on the changes that I had made. At this point, I'm about to graduate the whole, second time around with Bridges to Life. It used to be back to back before, not the break in between. So it's second time around. By the second time around, the end of it, and I'm graduating the Salvation Army program, I could look in the mirror and tell myself I love myself. And I practiced that for about 2 months straight towards the end of graduating here. Upstairs in that bathroom, I would go in there and try to time it just right where nobody else is in there and say, I love myself. And it felt so forced and fake, but I would do it because I wanted to love myself. And like, it felt so fake, but I would do it, right? People would walk by and they laugh sometimes. They catch me. I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. This is so weird. This is just weird. I do it anyways, man, every morning, to the point now it's kind of like a game. I don't care if people see me or not. Like, I'm actually starting to feel it a little bit, So after that second month, this was like 2 weeks before I'm about to graduate this program, I said it one day and I felt like a tingle. And in my heart and my soul. I felt a tingle, and I could tell, like, wow, what was that? Like, I really love myself. Like, why wouldn't I love myself? I've come so far. I've worked through everything that I've ever needed to in my life. My kids know who their real dad is now, and like tell me I'm amazing and stuff. Like, I could be real with myself. Like, I really do love myself. So I graduate the program, and I move on and everything, and I'm volunteering with Bridges to Life. And at this one place, a lady asked me, she said, I want you to come speak with some juveniles. I'm like, all right, why they want to listen to me? Oh, hold up. Let me check that negative thought. Maybe they can learn something from me. I mean, I grew up where they was at. She asked me to come to a juvenile prison and talk to some kids. So I went, man. I went to the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center, and I talked to this group of kids. There was like 50 kids and their parents, about 100 people all together. And I was nervous. I ain't never done it before. Only speeches I gave was in here. And when I left that place, though, y'all, like, I felt what people have talked about my whole life, but I never knew exactly what they meant. I felt joy in my heart for the first time. And everything just come rushing in. Like, I'm sober, almost a year at this point. I'm honest. I've changed my whole negative outlook into a positive outlook. I love myself. And now I feel joy in my heart, like this is my calling, is these kids, to teach them things that I wish that I knew when I was their age, to share the pain that I went through and what they're going to go through too if they don't change their ways. To share that God has turned my mess into a great message of hope, to help people, to impact lives. And now that's what I do every chance I get. The kids are my calling, but I go everywhere, y'all. So let me brag on God for a little bit, for a minute here, on what all He's done since then. As I told you, I've been sober for 3 years, 3.5 years just about. So 2 years ago, I started a ministry called Bless Up Ministries that I had no idea what I was doing with. I just had a vision. I had a vision, and it was during a prayer, and the name and everything popped up. And I said, I'm going to go wherever I can and share this message God has given me. I'm going to go to the places that I feared going to most in Texas before I moved here, was the prison system. Because I don't know if y'all know or not, but in other states, we look at Texas like, you do not want to go there. They will lock you up and you will be stuck for life. They will kill you. Like, you do not want to go there. And I was scared of being caught up in it before I moved here. But God took me in there on the other side to share His message and to help people. So that's the first place I went with it. And then to a few homeless shelters, to rehabs, to I'm in 5 juvenile prisons now. I make these things. I make these social media videos that like tens of thousands of people watch, and it's all to give God the glory, though, to share what He's done in my life and all of the experiences and life lessons I've learned throughout my life. I got joint custody of my kids. That's a big deal to me, man. That was the main thing that I needed in life, man, to show them who I really was and to be the father that they deserve. So I got joint custody of my kids. I have 2 cars that God's blessed me with, my own place back. Everything that I lost, I got back. Everything that I lost, I got back, plus way more. The peace of mind that I live with today is like something that I will fight for, no matter where I'm at, no matter where I'm going. That's something that I'll never let go and that never let no one control, is my peace of mind anymore. Staying sober is the main way to keep that too, that peace of mind. So, what was it, about June of last year, I started a handyman service business. I'm a master carpenter. I've been working for a big construction company, and it hasn't even been a year yet, and I made the goal of by June this year, I want to be my own boss. Well, that came faster than I ever expected it to, because as of a month ago, I became my own boss, and I work for myself now, make more money than I ever have. And like, it's just amazing, man. The blessings just continue to flow. Every time that I came back here to do what I'm doing now, there's always been something added to my story. This whole business thing was the last thing added to my story. And I'm just here to guarantee y'all that we can change. we can change, and it starts with you. It starts with you. You can't go around saying this place can't keep me sober, these people can't keep me sober, because if you think like that, you're absolutely right. There's not a place in this world that can keep you sober. There's not a person in this world that can keep you sober. The only one that can is yourself, and that's with the power of God. This program right here, Bridges to Life, has everything there is to offer that we need. How I always say is we need God and we need a program. We need a program and we need God, because I tried just going to church and just God, it didn't work for me. I tried just working a program and not going to church, it didn't work for me. And I've met hundreds of people in all the, 12 rehabs I've been through that have said the same thing. I've tried both this one or this one, and it just don't work. I guess I'm going to just give up. I'm a lost cause. For me, and my advice is we need both. God and a program. This is my program, Bridges to Life. And for 3.5 years now, it has worked for my life. It teaches you everything you need to know, from responsibility, accountability, making amends, writing your story down, man. That is a huge part, y'all. When I was upstairs writing my story, I'm up there in the library crying, writing it. People walking by, I'm embarrassed, and go to my room, run back out there like, man, I don't care what they think. Like, this is something I need to get out. These are tears of pain that I need to get out. And then I wrote it all down and shared it in our class, and I couldn't even talk. I was bawling so hard, but that's okay. Y'all might do that too in your class. That's okay. Everything is confidential in your class. You're not supposed to share it with other people. You need to get that pain out. For me, it took me all the way back to my childhood. Stuff that I didn't even know I was holding on to until I wrote it down and said it out loud. That burden and that bondage was released. Throughout the time of working the Salvation Army program and the Bridges to Life program, by the time I graduated, before I moved out a year, 2 weeks before, I stood up here and I gave my testimony for the first time in my life. And after that, I felt every weight, that whole bag full of things that I had packed into it my whole life was released. And I left that bag up here, gave it a little kick, and walked away, and I ain't never looked back. I never looked back, and I never will. One day at a time we can do it. This program has everything you have to offer. I'm going to leave y'all with a quote that I say every day and that I live by, all right? The strongest people in life are those who are willing to face their darkness, then bring the best of themselves to the light to help others in the world. Let your light shine. I love y'all. Thank you.
I don't know what to say after that, except for I have so much hope for you men that are here in the program right now. That, everything I've seen him go through, everything I've been through, what you're going through